In the world of politics, there's always something going on. And with a federal election just around the corner, there is a lot to talk about. And to talk about some of these topics is the Alberta NDP MLA for Calgary Mountain View, Kathleen Ganley. Kathleen, thank you so much for stopping by our studios today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's great to have you here. And so first off, Prime Minister Mark Carney and Alberta Premier Danielle Smith recently had a meeting in Edmonton where she made a list of demands that must be addressed within 6 months of the new Prime Minister being installed to avoid a, quote, national unity crisis. Can you tell me a little bit more about this and what your thoughts are?
Yeah, I think that our Premier here in Alberta should be acting in the interest of Albertans. And so what Albertans are concerned about is their cost of living, their jobs, our economy here, their health care, and instead what we have is a Premier who spends her time threatening people, threatening national unity crisis. Albertans are Canadians too, and I would say my biggest concern with Smith's position is that, you know, she's threatening and playing politics when she should be standing up for Albertans.
Wow. And then the fate of the Grassy Mountain coal mining project, let's talk about that because that's now in the hands of the Alberta Energy Regulator. So how do you feel the outcome will be, and do you feel it will be a positive outcome?
Well, I definitely don't want to presuppose what the AER is going to do, but what I will say is this project is a huge concern. So this is, I mean, it exists at all because the UCP went back and forth with respect to the policy on coal, and now they've gone back again. So they've moved one way, they've moved the other way. During the election, they promised, don't worry, it's not going to happen. We're never going to let it happen. And now they've turned around and they've made reg changes. They literally made reg changes while a matter was before the AER in order to ensure that the project could go forward. So I think this is extremely problematic. It's a government that's not acting in the interest of Albertans and that's basically circumventing its own regulatory process.
Now, what's the latest with Alberta NDP leader Naheed Nenshi? Because we had heard that he was going to run for the seat previously occupied by Rachel Notley. There should be a by-election called. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, so we are waiting for the UCP to call the by-election because it is entirely at the government's discretion. I know that our leader is incredibly excited to get into the House. And honestly, if I were to speculate, I think they're scared. I think they're scared of having him in there, and that's why they don't want to call the by-election. And
with a federal election around the corner, the three main parties, they seem to be making, there's a lot of similarities in the pitches that they're making. What are you hearing?
Yeah, so I mean, we've seen a sort of big change, I think, in the projected outcome in the course of the last couple months. So that happened really suddenly. I would say, obviously, the federal Liberals have a new leader, and he's going to make whatever decisions he makes. I think in terms of federal Conservatives, what it demonstrates is that they've learned they need to sort of shift back, right? That they need to act in the interest of all Canadians, that Canadians care about each other. So they've done things like be in favor of the CPP. Honestly, I wish the UCP could learn a bit of a lesson from that.
So, and then you're in town in Lethbridge today just to have some talks about how to build the party going forward. Can you just give us a little preview of what those talks are about and how the Alberta NDP can increase their presence in our province?
Yeah, so I talked to a bunch of folks last night who have been sort of volunteers for years. And essentially what we're talking about is how do we get people more excited? How do we give people a message of hope? Because, you know, we have a UCP government who isn't generally acting in their interests, who's, you know, embroiled in a massive scandal, who spends their time, attacking the Prime Minister, refusing to be on Team Canada, refusing to participate, and sort of, running down to the States to hang out with right-wing extremists. So a lot of people, a lot of moderates in these circumstances feel like they're being pushed out, that they don't have a place in politics. But we can absolutely be that home for them, right? We can be that voice for Albertans that's sort of pragmatic and that has their interests at heart. So we're here talking about, how do we get that message out to people? How do we make people feel included?
Let's talk more about Premier Smith's trip to the States. She's going on Ben Shapiro's show. So let me hear your thoughts on that.
Well, my thoughts are, so she's not even going on his show. she's going to participate in a fundraiser for him. So, her claim is that she's going down there, to somehow advocate for Alberta, but that's not what she's doing at all. She's going down there to help a right-wing extremist, a known racist, someone who has said that our country, our whole country of Canada, should be annexed and should become essentially a colony of the United States. She's going down to help him fundraise. So that's really, really troubling. And she's spending taxpayer money to do that. I don't think that the average Albertan would agree with that.
Alberta NDP MLA for Calgary Mountain View, Kathleen Ganley, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you very much for having me.
I'm Naveen Day. On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, thanks for watching.